your feedback. We appreciate any feedback you guys provide us. We've also enabled the voicemail on Anchor. So if you guys want to leave us voicemails or questions, please follow the link on the description. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and talk about two-factor authentication.
Right, so two-factor authentication, in the most simplest terms, is basically using two different methods to verify an individual. Okay? So, the order got messed up here. Okay. This is only for the recording. Okay, so two different methods of authentication. Okay? So, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. In a nutshell, the good is enabling two-factor authentication on a website that requires your password, such as your email or your bank accounts or just really important online accounts. It makes your account safer. It's not 100% bulletproof. That's the bad, right? If somebody wants to get to your account, they're still going to be able to do that. It's just going to take them a little extra effort. And the ugly is when you enable two-factor authentication, it's annoying when you are in a hurry. And most people are always in a hurry. But have you ever had to try to log into your email and it's asking you for your
mine.
It sends you a text or whatever,
And I don't have no clue where I left my phone.
and so now you're scrambling to go find your phone, right? So it makes your account safer because, again, if somebody just doesn't need to know your password, they need to also have access to your phone, specifically your text messages. And we'll talk about how even that stuff gets hackable towards the end here. But you need to go hit your phone. And so if you don't have your phone handy...
Oh, my kid has my phone and he pushes on the no.
Or if you forget your badge, which we're going to be talking about what each of these different ways of authenticating are, it's just annoying because in a time of need where you're trying to get into your account, something's going to go wrong. You might not have something. So that's pretty much the ugly. So why don't we break down the three different types of authentication methods? That way we can then kind of go more into two-factor authentication. So
the are you talking about?
Yeah, so something you know.
So something we know is our own password. It's what identifies us as an individual. And it should, in theory, if we don't share it and don't write it down, be something that we as an individual know only ourselves. And this should allow for us to go ahead and log in to different accounts like Google, Facebook, Twitter, things like that. Anything that you guys use out there that would allow you to log in.
A PIN is also a good something you know, right? It doesn't have to be a password or a passphrase. It can be like an 8-digit code or 4 digits or whatever.
Would that be safe though? Having a PIN versus a password.
So some okay. This is just defining something you know, right? A PIN by itself is a form of a password because you'd have to know their PIN, right? Like your debit card PIN, right? But your debit card PIN is useless without the debit card.
Correct.
So we'll get into the next thing. So the next one here is something you are, right? So this is in biometrics. So if you want to tell us what biometrics are.
So biometrics is basically something that you use, whether it be your, for example, in the Androids, a lot of the new Androids, you have a fingerprint readers, and the iPhones have the face recognition now.
Okay, some Android devices have Face ID too, but their version of Face ID, although not very good in my opinion. But
that is your opinion. And then there's also face recognition. There is Retina Scan. I haven't seen too many of Retina Scan, so unless the iPhone uses that, and we don't really know.
But I think the last Google Pixel used like some sort of a laser that just kind of projected itself outward, and so it was much better than Face ID because Face ID requires you to look at your phone directly, but this one, if the phone was flat, it would like project like a little bubble of
a dome.
Like a dome of just infrared, and so when your face came close, it would detect it. I mean, obviously the bubble's far or the dome is big, but yeah, as you leaned in, it would find it. But with the iPhone, you have to do like face contact. So that's kind of a interesting take that Google did, but now of course the Pixel's dead, the Pixel 4 at least, so they got rid of that.
And then like other stuff could be hair, but I don't think I've ever seen that in boys.
Voice recognition. So yeah, so this should be noted that this isn't just for phones, right?
Yeah.
This is high security facilities will use like a voice authentication, like you see in the Mission Impossible movies, where he says like his name Ethan, whatever his name is.
Books of blood.
Yeah, but it's authenticating the voice patterns and the voice like frequencies and stuff. And in the Retina Scan, you've definitely seen a lot of that in the movie where they gotta go extract an eyeball from somebody because it's difficult to replicate these. At least the Retina Scan is probably one of the hardest ones to forge, right? Like you can't really fake it that easily. But the other ones, it should be noted that even with the biometric, all of these have vulnerabilities, right? Somebody can pick up your fingerprint and create some sort of a duplicate. With the facial recognition, it's a little bit harder, but they could, in theory, force you to use your face to authenticate yourself. For example, somebody can take your phone, strap you to a chair, and make you use your face to unlock your device.
Sure.
Right. Now, Apple has tried to combat this a little bit. So, Face ID is in particular, it will recognize when you're not trying to unlock your phone. So it's got some stuff in the algorithm that it knows when you're like struggling, like, or being forced to do the facial recognition.
Really?
Yeah. So it won't just because they put the phone in front of your face won't activate, right? Like if you're looking away, if you're closing your eyes, or you're doing these weird facial expressions, which people in stress or distress will be doing.
You should try that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not 100% again, but they at least try to cook it in there.
We're gonna do a dry run of these eventually.
Yeah. And then the last one. Why don't you tell us about the last?
Something you have would be like a physical item, like a badge in your phone. Something like your badge holds information of you as an employee, and you need a badge. Like for example, if you have a pin, you need a badge to be able to, for that pin to become available, or your your debit card to be able to get money out of the ATM. So those are physical items, or your phone, when you need your phone to allow for that second verification of, yes, let me into my account. I did. It was me who went ahead and.
Now, in addition to your phone, you have things like a smart card.
Oh, right? You have the little thing,
the token.
The token.
Yeah, those tokens are pretty important. For me, for my work, my watch is actually something that we use too because.
Really?
Yes. So the way that works is we use Okta, or Two-Factor Authentication, but because I'm most likely, and I don't have it right now, but most likely will have my watch with me more than I will have my phone with me. The authentication message goes to my watch and I can validate there. Oh. And since they know it's something that's on my person, it's more trusted. And another thing that I wanted to talk about here is, oh boy, now I forgot. But it had to do with the Okta thing. All right, if I remember, I'll come back to it. But yeah, the smart cards are pretty big. The tokens are pretty big. Your watch. Oh yes, the Mac OS 10. It has a feature too where if it detects your watch, because the new Macs, I don't know if you've seen it here, but the new Macs have Touch ID built into their keyboard. So when I turn on my computer, you can unlock it using your fingerprint. Right? But once you unlock it with your fingerprint and you have your Apple Watch and it's all connected to your ecosystem, Apple will unlock your devices because they also detect your watch on you, though they know it's you.
What if you don't have it on and your kid has it on?
Well, okay, we'll get into the problems about it later. Or somebody
went and grabbed your watch.
But yeah, so basically those are the three different authentication methods. Now, two-factor authentication is the topic of this presentation here. As I'm trying to figure out my keyboard shortcuts. Nope, still getting the wrong ones. Okay, so So the purpose of this presentation is to talk about two-factor authentication. Now, we've discussed 3 individual authentication factors.
Okay.
Individually, they don't mean much.
I mean, individually you can get in, but are they safe individually?
So individually, and any one individually is always going to have some vulnerability. Now, what makes things interesting is when you make them, when you combine them together to make a multi-factor or two-factor authentication. Okay, so most websites today will enable two-factor authentication. That's becoming the more new common.
Mm-hmm.
But super secure websites, like maybe like when you're trying to do your taxes, right? They might want to enable all 3. So the government might want to like mail you a smart card, know your PIN, plus do a fingerprint read.
I don't do that.
I know, but that would be the most secure way, right?
I don't think I've seen a 3-factor authentication.
I personally haven't seen it either, but at the very least, two-factor authentication will be using 2 of those methods that we just described. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's go into a little bit deeper into what these are. So, so now that we know what they are, let's talk about some of the vulnerabilities and why individually, again, they're not the best. And even together, they're still not the best. So let's talk about Facebook questionnaires. So I think you've had experience with this. So why don't you?
Well, I didn't have experience, but I've seen it a lot. Where so for example, a lot of people out there are doing these the questionnaires where they say, what's your favorite color, kind of thing. Where do you grow up? What house are you? It's all these common questions that if you go to
the name of your pet,
the name of your first pet,
where did your parents grow up? Where do they meet?
It's all these common questions that they usually use at They usually use when you make accounts that you do these secret questions that they want you to answer, right?
Yeah, it's always like some sort of a challenge, right?
Yeah, and they're like, and they always put this thing where it's like, if you don't do this, it's because.
Here we go. This is a good one. So they ask you your favorite person, your favorite movie, your favorite song, your favorite celebrity, your favorite color, your favorite food, your favorite animal, your favorite word.
How many siblings do you have?
These are, if they look familiar to you at all, are usually the same security questions that a website will ask you.
Yeah, like your bank account, most likely you have questions where you answer the different things like there, and these things you're putting publicly out there for people to see. I know, I understand you want the challenge. It's like, this is fun, but you have to think about it. Are these questions that are gonna affect me in any way, shape, or form out there?
Yeah. So so basically, be careful. Don't fill them out. And one way to be able to fill out the questionnaires and still have fun with your community, but to not fall victim when you're filling out the forms, is to do 2 things. One, lie on the on the.
Are you promoting lying?
Well, not lying, but don't use the right answer, right? So if your favorite color is pink, don't put pink into the actual form for your bank account, right?
Yeah.
Put like the opposite color of pink, and colors do have opposites. But the other thing is to not answer the question which is pink, but to answer the question as in with the question in it. So when it asks you what's your favorite color, don't put just pink. Put my favorite color is pink.
And the questionnaires for the websites.
Right.
Well, that is true. Because when you fill out this, it makes you feel, when you ask you again, you have to fill up the whole thing. How exactly do people know you answered it?
Yeah, so it's unique to how you answer it, right? So just putting, even some forms, capitalization matters, right? So if you put big P for a pink versus little p for a pink, and you miss it, you might still not get it, right? But if you put like a phrase in your answers, that makes it 10 times harder. So you can still...
You could put, I like pink because...
Yeah,
blank.
Things like that. So that's a different way. So again, so you can still have that fun with your community and interact and do things, put information on the internet you shouldn't put, but you can still use it for realsies. All right, so biometrics. The vulnerability here is somebody, again, I kind of talked about earlier, is somebody can pick up your fingerprints, right? You're putting your fingerprints everywhere you touch, and just like in the movies.
We should try that. See if it's actually feasible to pick up your fingerprints.
You can't.
I've tried it.
Well, so I know that if they can dust for fingerprints and then run them through like an FBI system, I'm pretty sure that you can fake it, like put the little. I haven't tried it, but you put it in that film, and you should be able to put your.
Wait,
film
in real life, they can do that?
Well, yeah, because of how else do you think that like the police agencies like get your fingerprints?
No, I know that, but can you actually use a fingerprint from a little tape into something?
Well, that's why I'm like, I don't know if they can do that, but they lift it. So
I mean, obviously you can lift it, yeah.
That'd be something to try. And the facial recognition, we kind of talked about it. Somebody could technically like kidnap you and try to force you.
What if they look like you?
Well, I think there's been research on twins and stuff like that, but it's still, everybody's unique enough. Where again, that's where a good facial recognition system like Face ID will be leap years better than something that was like put together to compete with Apple, right? But a decent facial recognition, like a state of the art one, should be able to recognize those micro expressions between the individuality between twins and things of that nature. But what I wanted to talk about here, which you're making me forget every time you cut me off.
Well, I'm just having questions.
Man, what was it? It was gonna be with the facial recognition. I forgot again. We'll have to come back to it. But essentially, these things can be compromised, right? Like somebody can.
Oh, your badges too can be compromised. You accidentally drop it somewhere where you're.
Yeah. So let's go to something you have, right? So your phone.
You can lose your phone or get stolen.
But not only that, but I've also heard of YouTubers who are very popular. Whatever you do, if you are in the public eye, do not let people know who your provider is. There's been cases of YouTubers who've said, I have Verizon, and so an attacker will call Verizon, pretend that they're them, figure out the other security questions. Although in this particular case, I heard Verizon did not ask any questions. They just asked for an address, which a lot of people have the YouTubers' addresses because a lot of YouTubers get things mailed to themselves, right? So the Verizon employee just asked for the phone number, the person's name, and their address as an authentication, and they were able to activate their personal phone, the attacker's personal phone, as the YouTuber. So then when he went to the website to get the two-factor authentication, the text message came over to his new attacked phone. So again, you're not safe in any way, shape, or form. But we'll talk about it at the end here about what the end game is. But
basically, you're not safe there if they're out to get you.
Yeah. Way to spoil the ending here.
Oh, isn't that true?
Yeah. So again, all of these, your badges can be forged, right? Like somebody can. It costs $1 to buy a security badge. Right, the machine's a little bit more expensive, but your return on investment on printing a lot of IDs is going to be well worth it. But those are hackable, I guess, because somebody can reprint out your badge. But you may be saying that's good, but you have the badge, but not the digital data inside of the badge, right? That RFID. There's machines where within shoulder distance of being with somebody, although it might be a little bit harder right now since we're supposed to be 6 feet apart, but I've heard stories from my professors who they'll put the device in like a big purse, and this works especially well for the ladies with big purses, or even guys with just backpacks. But you bump into somebody and you're picking up RFID data, so you're getting the credit card numbers and you're getting your badge numbers. So there is fortunately a way to protect yourself against this. There's RFID blocking badge holders and RFID blocking wallets. So if you put your devices in there, this is particularly helpful. Now, it should be noted that this isn't just for like accounts and stuff, right? Teslas have been falling victim of this because they utilize not RFID, but that even near field communication, NFC. They depend on this wireless protocol to enable the car to do stuff. So even Tesla in their vehicles, right, have enabled two-factor authentication. So it's not enough to now have either the credit card that Model 3s and Ys come with, or the key fob that all four of them have. But when you get in the car, because Tesla researchers have figured out that both the card and the thing can be intercepted and stolen. But now when you get in the car, and if you're a savvy driver, but again, it goes back to the good, the bad, the ugly, right? The ugly is now when you come into your car and you're in a hurry to go somewhere, you have to manually put in a pin to let the car commence and drive.
For instance, why don't they do the face recognition? They do have a lot of
But
cameras
only
in there.
I think only the 3 and the Y have internal cameras. I don't know that the S and the X. But anyways, you have your key fob. You put a pin. That's two-factor authentication to get your car going. If the building's on fire and you really want to get out there in a hurry, might be a little annoying because
you might forget your pin.
Yeah, in the heat of the moment, you might forget your pin. You might forget this. You might forget that, and you're stuck, right? Until you enable it too. So it is great from a security perspective because people won't be able to steal your stuff. But at the same time, when it comes down to it, sometimes you might not be in the best state of mind to have all or 2 or 3 of these authentication methods. But yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell what they are. Define two-factor authentication. I wanted to talk about, just wrapping this up here, security by layers. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about this?
Most attackers are lazy. I guess in human nature, people tend to be lazy. They go the route that is the easiest way. So, I like thinking about it as a human, right? If you're a hacker, you're not gonna go to try to hack people that have the two-factor authentication. That's way too much work. You're gonna go for those people that are easy to hack. The one password for every single account person. The simple password, which has to do with the dictionary passwords.
The dictionary, the common.
The common. Like, you guys, literally, it is interesting to hear stories out there that I've heard that people have passwords where it's literally password 123, or if you're Twitter 123, that's your password. Those are the worst passwords to have.
Or forbidding that you write down the password on a sticky and you leave it like underneath your desk or
hanging right there on your monitor.
Yeah, things like
I've
that, right?
Seen that.
Those are gold mines, right?
It's like I'm not a hacker, but like you're literally leaving. It's like leaving your underwear hanging right there just for everybody to see.
Yeah. So the moral here is you want to protect yourself. Security by layers, right? Like you mentioned, most hackers are lazy, inherently lazy.
Well, every human is lazy.
Right.
By trade.
So I'm a certified ethical hacker, so I'm gonna say but we don't want to work hard, right?
Why? Why work hard when you get it the easy way?
Have you ever heard that phrase, work smart, not hard? Right? The same thing with the hacking. These attackers, they're going to have a bunch of data, especially when there's password dumps. Like, I think Razer recently got compromised 100,000 accounts, right? Or Yahoo's were millions, right? So they have so much data, so many people to go and take advantage of. They're not, for the most part, again, we're not lawyers, and this isn't like facts, but they're most likely not going to. If they have 1 million accounts that they can take advantage of, and the first 15 hacks in, they get a two-factor authentication. Guess what they're most likely gonna do? They're gonna go to number 16. They're not gonna stick around number 15. And go, I gotta go figure out where this person lives. I gotta go figure out how to duplicate their badge or steal their phone information or something like that, right? They have 999,000 more accounts to go.
Yeah.
That are most likely not going to have that two-factor. So you want to protect yourself in layers. You want to make it hard. I think there's a good TikTok about the police station, the lady that calls the police. Because the robber broke in.
Yeah, I heard that one.
Right?
The one where the lady calls another lady, calls the dispatcher, right? Calls 911, and dispatcher goes,
there's somebody in my house. And the dispatcher goes, did you lock your door?
Well, did you lock your door? No? Oh, that's your fault. You should have locked your door. Something like that. I don't remember exactly what she said,
but the point is, you gotta make it a little hard for the attackers, right? Again, you got to make your security decisions on the notion that these people are inherently lazy. All of us are.
Well, also not only lazy is what gives you the fastest reward, basically.
Yeah.
Are you gonna have are you want to work super hard to get a few accounts,
Well,
or are you gonna try to work easier to get more accounts? What's gonna give you more?
yeah, that return on investment is super critical. But again, security by layers. That's what I want to end this. The only way that this is not going to work is targeted attacks, and
Exactly.
we can be talking about targeted attacks for like almost every single password vulnerability and cybersecurity vulnerability we're going to be talking over the next year. But if a person wants to do damage to you as an individual and you are being targeted, let's say you're like a manager somewhere or some sort of supervisor, and people know, and again, this is why you want to release as little information on the internet as possible. You don't want people knowing that you have the potential for having an admin password to a server, right? Remember yesterday or the last podcast we talked about Twitter's admins getting social engineered, and they had the admin password that enabled the attackers to then hack the celebrities, right? You don't want to be posting this stuff. You don't want people to know that you have the power.
You have the key to the kingdom.
Yes. So when people know that you have the power and that you have the keys to the kingdom, that's when you start becoming a target.
Yes.
That's why we're asked when we go out to lunch to hide our badges, so that people don't know that we work for a defense contractor. Because the second that people know we work for a defense contractor, you just became a target.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to, in your car, you want to clean your car. You don't want to be putting how many people are in your family with those family stickers, right? You don't want to have the name of anybody. You don't want to know where your son goes to school or your daughter goes to school. I know it looks great to have those proud parent of whatever school. But guess what? The bad guy knows where to go park to figure out where you and your kid and who your family is and all these things, right? That makes it easier for target attacks. Which any of these security by layers basically go out the door, because again, if somebody really wants to do damage to you, you gotta make it a little harder. So I'm not saying go live under a rock, but just be cautious of what is out there on the internet and what information you're putting out there. And at the very least, enable two-factor authentication. Most popular websites today are going this route. So many companies have been hacked in the last few years that this is a trend. Now, if you're a business owner, shameless plug for our services, we will come and help you enable two-factor authentication. We will come in and help train your employees on how two-factor authentication works, some of the best practices that they can be doing to not only protect themselves, but also protect your company and your data, right? And as we mentioned in our first episode, the biggest vulnerability of any business is their employees, because as humans, we are so susceptible to social engineering attacks.
Yeah.
And that's basically how we want to end. Thank you so much for listening. Please email us. In the description, we have our website where you can fill out our contact form, and you can email us. Our email's on the website in a secure way. Feel free to send us any questions, and we are super happy to be able to have had the opportunity to record yet another episode. We have a lot more episodes to come. I think we have 22, about 20. I erased them.
That doesn't include the others.
Yeah, we have about 20-ish episodes that we're going to be recording just on passwords and password safety and security. So subscribe if you haven't. We're going to be coming with a lot of episodes, and I think they're super value added for you, and you're going to enjoy these.
And again, these are just things we've learned, and we're here just to try to help out the community and businesses. It's not that we're experts, at least I'm not, and I feel like putting it out there is better for the community so they can make better decisions.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.